Hi everyone, Alan here, back with yet another FilmGrearHQ video, and today we will be taking a look at a rather affordable 5-inch Full HD monitor, which is particularly useful for the 4K recording mirrorless cameras like the Sony A7 series and similar. But before we get into the actual review, let's roll back the time, and I want to tell you how I got to this point. I've started my affordable monitor journey with a 7-inch Lilliput monitor, which was only good for general monitoring. I then upgraded that to a 5-inch model because I felt it was better for personal use. But once manufacturers started coming out with affordable Full HD monitors, I jumped onto those. But more recently, all those manufacturers started bringing that high resolution and all the features to 5-inch form factor. And when Feelworld contacted me to ask if I wanted to check out their F5 model, I said yes, because I always wanted to come back to that 5-inch form factor. And considering that the price is just $160, if this monitor is any good, I want you guys to know about it. So let's get into the actual monitor. And the first thing that you will notice is that it sits on this swing arm, which you might know was first introduced by SmallHD with their focus monitor, but you now see that concept on a lot of affordable monitors as well. And I must say, it's a great concept. It's much better than those very cheap ball head mounts that don't hold the monitor too well and it will eventually fall over. With this mount, there's no way for it to fall over because it kind of sits in the middle of its weight ratio, let's say that. So no matter how you turn it, it does stay in that position, which is really cool. But it's not perfect. As you move the monitor around, especially as you swing it up, it loosens up this knob and the monitor becomes a bit wobbly right there. So you do need to tighten it down after moving it. It is what it is. It's not a big problem, but I'll let you know anyway. So let's jump into the actual monitor. As you can see, it's made out of plastic, not any particularly special plastic. It feels very much like any other budget monitor I've tried, but no surprise there at its price. That's exactly what I expected. As you can see, the front of the monitor is very minimalistic. It has very slim bezels, unlike my previous 5-inch monitor, which felt like it was twice bigger, to be honest, because it had those massive buttons on the bottom and really big bezels around the actual screen. And I really like how minimalistic this is. As you can see around the actual display, you have some Velcro, and that's where you Velcro this lens hood that comes with the monitor. Can be very useful in sunny conditions. We don't really need it at the moment. If we swing it to the back, you can see that the only thing we have here is the battery plate. And the nice thing about this battery plate is that you can put both Sony NPF and Canon's LP E6 batteries onto the same plate. Most of us have either one of those batteries. If we go to the bottom of the monitor, we'll find the USB upgrade connection, headphones out, and the DC out. I assume this is to power any accessories or camera. I won't really do that because I don't really trust this connection to power anything as important as camera, but it's there if you need it, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen this in any budget monitor before. But on the side, we have some connections that I'm definitely gonna use, including the DC in, which you can use with the power adapter that comes with this monitor, as well as the HDMI in and out. So you can do loop through into another monitor. For example, if you have a director on a shoot and you want them to have their own monitor they can look at and not try to squeeze into your camera space, this is what you can use it for, and I've used it already, and that's a really cool feature. Again, I haven't really seen it in the cheapest monitors. Usually it's reserved for one-up model, and it's really good to see it in this super cheap monitor. The only thing that's really left is the top, and that's where we find those buttons, and we have the F1, F2, side to side, menu, up and down, and power buttons right there. F1 and F2 buttons are the function buttons where you can preset your favorite features from the monitor. On F1 I have the zoom, which cycles through various punch-in modes to get really close to the action. which can be particularly useful on this camera, especially in 4K mode. If you have this camera, you'll know that once you start recording, the screen kind of goes a bit blurry and you can't really judge the sharpness, but you can from the monitor, especially with all the ability to punch in very close. And that's my favorite focusing aid. My favorite exposure aid on this monitor is the false color. That's what I have on f2. And from this I can judge the exposure from any part of my image at the same time. I'm not reserved to just one RE value as I am with zebras. False color though is a feature that is generally reserved for high-end cameras, so with this $160 monitor you can have it on any camera, and that's really nice. Before we jump into the menus and the features, I wanted to quickly touch on the placement of the buttons. Since they are on the top and you are unlikely to see them at all times, I find that placing side to side buttons on one side and up and down buttons between menu and power to be slightly odd, because if you're not looking at the actual buttons, it can be difficult to figure out which one is which. I wish they were all maybe on one side of the monitor, so it would be a bit easier to figure out which buttons are which, but it is what it is. Hopefully once you have preset your favorite features into the function buttons and you have done your initial setup with the monitor, you won't need to touch those buttons too often. So next thing that we will do is put one of these batteries in, hook up an HDMI cable and go into the menus. So I've now hooked up the monitor to the camera. As you can see, I've got a nice short cable here. The monitor actually comes with a different cable. It's much longer because of course they don't know which exact camera you're gonna use, so they give you a longer cable, but I wanted something that goes straight from the monitor to the camera without extra cable dangling around, so I went for this. And if you want to check this one out, I'll leave a link for the Amazon where I found this cable. So let's get into those menus. I will not go through every single function and feature because a lot of them will be familiar to you, but I will go into the stuff that I found to be new to me or whatever stood out to me as something really nice. So as we go into the menu, the first section is dedicated to the color adjustment, and the nice thing that I found here is the ability to change various preset modes. We have the dynamic, standard, mild and user presets. The user one of course lets you adjust much more within the monitor, but I actually found the mild setting to be very close to my camera display settings right out of the box. It's difficult for you guys to see because the brightness of the monitor is actually much better than what I have on my camera display, but I can tell you that it's very close. The only thing that I needed to do is adjust the tint. I turned it down to 40 and I feel that it gave me a slightly warmer image because that's what the camera display looks like. The next section has all the general settings, but we won't really go into those other than the backlight setting, which is currently turned down all the way to 30 to match my camera display, and it still looks brighter. So when you turn it up all the way to 80, 90, where I usually have it, this display gets really bright, which is good for outdoor shooting. In this next section we have all the zoom features, which will help you with focusing. Like I said, my favorite feature is just a simple zoom function which cycles between 4, 9 and 16 times. But if for some reason you prefer it to be slightly different, there is a lot of adjustment here. The next section has all the tools, as you can see from the logo, lots of stuff here. I won't go into every single one of these features, but the one that stood out to me the most is the Anamorphic Mode. And as I flip through, you will see that it has 1.3 setting, 2x setting, 2x mag to punch in into that 2x stretch. And there's also the user setting, which is something that I haven't seen before. As you know, if you are an anamorphic lens user, some anamorphic lenses can be very specific in their stretch. So rather than being 1.3, they are often 1.33, which you can preset here, or sometimes they can be between 1.5 and 2, so some of them are around 1.7. And with the user function you can actually preset exact stretch of your anamorphic scope. This is something that I haven't seen on any budget monitor before. Previously I would see just one standard anamorphic mode, which I guess would be 2x, or sometimes there would be 1.5 and 2 times, but I've never seen this user setting, which is absolutely perfect for those who like to experiment with anamorphics. The other functions that you guys are most likely to use are the flip function, because you can quickly rotate this monitor to the other side to go the vlog mode. So if you preset the flip to one of the function buttons, you can switch the monitor from being upside down as it is now to the right way up very quickly. The last feature that I use a lot is the ratio marker, especially the 2.35 setting, and that can be fine-tuned as well with the color, just in case you want to turn down the width or the opacity of those plug bars. As you can see, you can make them completely transparent, or you can make them completely black. So if you decide to make them transparent, you can then increase the width of those borders so you can clearly tell where your crop marker is. But I prefer to see a semi-transparent overlay with a thin black border, so my frame is very clear, but I can also see into those areas that's gonna be cropped out. And the last section on the menu is the function preset. That's where you can put all the favorite features that we just discussed into the shortcut buttons. And this pretty much concludes what I wanted to talk about in terms of the features and the menu. So moving on to the most important part of this monitor, which is the actual display quality. And I've mentioned some aspects of that already. Like I said, the colors straight out of the box are really good. It's a Rec 709 calibrated monitor, so you get pretty accurate colors out of it right away, but there's a lot of adjustment in there if you need to tweak that. I also mentioned how sharp it is. It is very, very sharp. It feels so much better than what I have on my actual camera display, especially in that 4K mode. The Sony users will know the camera probably needs to reserve its resources for the actual recording. So as you try to use the zoom function on the actual camera, firstly, it doesn't punch in that much and it's very blurry. You can't quite tell where the focus point is, but with the monitor it goes to the initial 4 times, which I think is what you get on the camera display, then it goes to 9, and finally at 16 it's very, very clear where your focusing is by this point, and it's so much crisper than what you have on the display. Even with 0 zoom, it's still so much sharper than what I have on the camera display. So while all those extra features are great, it's the actual display quality why I will be using this monitor on this particular camera as much as I can, be it on tripod, slider or gimbal. Doesn't really matter because it is so lightweight and so compact that it doesn't actually affect the feel of the setup. So overall, very positive thoughts. But is there anything I actually really dislike about this monitor? Let's be real, at $160 we do get a lot for our money, but if there was a wish list of improvements, of course there are a few things that could be improved. For example, this swing arm, that tiny knob could be improved somewhat. The actual build quality of the monitor, yes, it could be better, but it doesn't really affect the usability. For me, the positioning of the buttons is probably one of the main quirks that I don't really like, but other than that there really is nothing bad to say, and these things are quite minor as well. I can't really think of anything better at the same price. So if you are looking for a very affordable 5-inch Full HD monitor for your mirrorless camera, I highly recommend checking this Feelworld F5 monitor out. I'll leave the links in the description below. And if you enjoyed this review, if you found it useful, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done already, and I will see you in one of my next videos.